Okay, so let's take a look at how you can create Azure Storage account, right? So first thing, we will log into Azure portal. Then second thing, we can create a resource or we can go to services, and here we will click on storage. Now I want to create a storage account. I have option to access the classic interface or I can access the new interface. The reason I'm not going with classic interface is that eventually that interface becomes the depreciated. So we have this dashboard here for storage account. I can click on create, right? Considering I don't have any functional storage account to show you, so I will start from scratch. Now here you see the project details where you have subscription, then resource group, then there is instance details, right, where you have to name your storage, right? So let's name this and let's hope that it's available. If not, we can simply use something like, right? So it seems like a lot of names are taken. Let's name this something cryptic. Let's hope it's available, and it seems like there are no errors, so it's available. Now next thing is our region. So you select from that. You can also deploy to an edge zone. Then there is performance. You can pick the general purpose, standard, or premium one. There is redundancy. You can choose local redundant storage. Now when to choose what? So if you are not regular storage uploader, then you can basically pick locally redundant storage. If you work for company or business where you regularly want to change your data, access it and process it, then geo redundant and also geo zone redundant can be a good option. There is also simply zone redundant, which is a good option if you have selected any zone for deployment, right? So you get the idea when to use locally redundant, geo redundant, zone redundant, and geo zone redundant, right? So next thing would be to click on advanced. Now here you see security where you can see what's possible. Now here you can see minimum TLS version I have selected. Permitted scope for copy operation is from storage account, right? Then there is default selected for REST API operation, public access, and storage account key access. We'll go with defaults, click networking options. Now here I am enabling public access from all networks. Then for routing, we will go with Microsoft's network routing. You can also use internet routing, but going with default here. Now data protection wise, I can enable soft delete for blobs, soft delete for containers, files, right? So basically your storage account is mix of blob, containers, file, then your typical queue objects, right? So we are enabling soft delete for those. Then there is enable point in time restore for containers, that can be enabled as well, right? Then comes the tracking. So manage versions and keep track of changes made to your blob data. Can enable versioning for your blobs and enable blob change feed as well. Then comes access control where you have to enable version level immutability support. Let's click next for encryption. Here I'm letting Microsoft manage keys. Also enable support for customer managed keys where you have blob and files or all service type, blob, files, tables, and queues, right? So once you make the options, however, you can't changed for that storage account. So you can enable support for blob and files only. Okay, here you can even check whether customer managed keys support can be limited, right, or to all files, right. So we can go for all service types. Next is enable infrastructure encryption. So I'm not going to do that. Next comes tags. So when you are trying to sort and organize things out, you can make use of tags, right. And then finally review, where you can see you are running the validation, right. If validation is properly done, you can simply hit on create. So this will take a bit of time to process that storage account. It will show you the deployment page and it will start the deployment one by one, and the status will be visible here. Now I can click on go to resource, and there you see you have new storage account here, and it will show you all the data, like whether it is storage v2, general purpose, and how the replication is, which is locally redundant, and then blob service, file, security, queue and table, everything is enabled, and we will take a look at each of them separately, right. But for now, this is your dashboard for storage account. So here few things we can take a look at is our features, right. For example, networking. So let's say you want to access the storage account. In that case, you will allow public access from all networks. You can also allow from specific set of IP address. There is also routing that I mentioned before. You get more endpoint option, Microsoft network routing or internet routing option, right. So pretty much covered on this part already. Then there is private endpoint connection that you can add. Custom domains. So let's assume that you have a domain name. You want to use that for your storage account, so that you can do all the single interface access for that particular storage account. In that case, you can basically add the domain name here, right. Let's say if I choose any domain name, then here I will have to also give the CNAME data, and once we do that, we would be able to save the settings, and then later, once everything is sorted out on the network end, your domain will able to access storage account from that custom domain, right. Then there is also CDN that you get. I may have to cover this separately, considering this will require its own attention, where you can see Azure CDN has endpoints which is loading in current case. I can create a new CDN instance for this particular storage account, and right, that would be another profile, right. So I will have to cover this separately. Now comes the access keys. So to access this storage account and the elements inside, you can check the key and connection string, key 1, key 2, right. So next comes our access signature, shared access signature, and you can even set their expiry and start. Then comes encryption. So at the time of setting things up, I have decided to go with Microsoft managed keys, and I have enabled encryption for all types, all service types, blob, file, table and queues, right. Then comes Microsoft Defender for cloud. So in some cases it will be given to you for free and enabled, but in other cases you have to manually enable them, or also you have to upgrade, like this button would be shown, The prices on the right you can check out. That would be protecting all the possible services within Azure. Right, so we can go back, and here we have things to check out. For example, I can create a static website by hosting the static asset on this particular account, and then using those assets I can host a website. A lot of people make use of the serverless functionality, and they kind of use some clients to basically put up a static objects into this storage account, and later they retrieve it. For example, some people also use this particular storage account to host a video file, and that can be hosted on some landing page where that video is played. So like this you can do some of the things. So there are options to explore. So these are some of that options that I have explored for you. So we will be covering data storage like container, file shares, queue and table separately. So what we have done so far, I explained to you in short. We logged into Azure portal, then we created a resource, or we can also go to services, then storage account, and then we clicked on create, right? Then when we clicked on create and we filled up the necessary details like instance name, region, performance, then redundancy along with advanced settings, right? Networking, data protection settings, encryption, and finally review and create. Once we have done all of that, we went back, and here you can see we have one storage account that we created earlier. Now I shown you some of the options in security and networking, right? And we will be covering container, file shares, queue and tables separately out of that, right? So you get the idea how to create a storage account in Microsoft Azure.